Hi again, Blue Jacket fans. Welcome to Jackets TV presented by Ohio Health. I'm Jeff Rimer, along with Bob McElligott. And yes, here we are, the Final Four in the National Hockey League. First off, let's take a look at the Eastern Conference Final, and it will feature the Boston Bruins and the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'll tell you what, right off the top here, I think it's going to come down to goaltending. And I'm going to ask you, Bob, who gets the edge?
Well, that depends. Who's going to be the goaltender for the Pittsburgh Penguins? It's been Thomas Vokoun that has gotten them through the first two rounds of the playoffs. He came in relief of Marc-Andre Fleury in that first series against the New York Islanders. If the goaltending stays that way, Jeff, to me, the edge goes to Tuukka Rask without any question. He's playing extremely well during the playoffs. He's a rock back there in between the pipes, and he's been that way all through the season. So if it's Rask against Vokoun, to me, Tuukka Rask has the advantage, a clear-cut advantage. But that doesn't mean that Marc-Andre Fleury doesn't reappear during this series at some point. I still think if the Pittsburgh Penguins are to hoist the Stanley Cup, it's going to be Marc-Andre Fleury that's in net when they do that. Now, I could be wrong, obviously, but he's been practicing hard. He's taking it like a man, his demotion right now. But I still think at some point that he comes back. But as it stands right now on the surface, Vokoun, Rask, clear-cut Boston. I
tell you, I am not going to belabor the goaltending issue, but I really would think it would be very difficult for Dan Bilesma at this point to go back to to Fleury and give up on Thomas Vokoun. If he gives up on Vokoun and Fleury continues to have problems as he struggled last year in the playoffs and again in the early rounds, I think he's lost Vokoun. He has got to stick with Vokoun, and I think Vokoun, as you do, has to be the goaltender, but the edge will go certainly to Tuukka Rask. Now, as far as the forwards are concerned, boy, both these teams are loaded with top quality talent.
Well, they are. They're very loaded. And the storylines in this series are going to be unbelievable. And here's the first two big storylines. Jaromir Jagr, of course, he spurred the Penguins last year, went to the Philadelphia Flyers. This year was in Dallas before traded to Boston. So a guy that was a one-time hero in Pittsburgh back in the early 90s is now villain number one. He'll be coming back into Pittsburgh to be booed repeatedly by the home crowd there. On the other side, you have Jarome Iginla, who was reported to go to the Boston Bruins at the trade deadline. He said, no, I would like to go to the other team wearing black and gold. He winds up in Pittsburgh, and that will draw the ire of the Bruins fans. So not only are those great storylines, but these are two great players. And will they be influential in this series? I see Iginla being more influential than Jagr right now, to be totally honest with you. But here's really, to me, the difference between these two teams. The Boston Bruins have gotten it done by committee. They don't really have that star guy. I mean, Bergeron jumps out. At times Lucic can jump out. But it's been like everybody pulling their weight along the way. Whereas Pittsburgh, they can come at you in waves. You've got Crosby. You've got Malkin. You've got Neal. Brendan Morrow is there now, and he can do damage from the third line. You've got Iginla. You've got Chris Kunitz, who was one of the top scorers in the league this year. Pascal Dupuis has been outstanding.
Yes,
so they just keep coming and coming and coming. So to me, when you look at it that way, the advantage on the forward side goes to the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Well, I'm going to, again, debate you on that issue. And for me, the key to this series will be the matchup with Chara matched up against the Crosby line, and if Malkin's on that line or if they split them up, whatever, that is going to be the key matchup. And as far as Boston is concerned up front, I really like the way that Lucic, who had a disappointing season and certainly early first round of the playoffs, he came on, as did that line with Krejci and Nathan Horton, who, I'll tell you what, Nathan Horton came on during those Stanley Cup playoffs, and in the early rounds, he could be a key factor matched up against the Pittsburgh Penguins forward lines.
I knew you were going back to that Florida connection with Nathan Horton. I knew it was coming. I was
well, the
ready
guy's
for it.
played terrific.
No,
he's been one of the best players in the playoffs.
He has. You're absolutely right. And he's turning it on. And these guys, one thing that we have here is two former Stanley Cup champions going head-to-head. So they both have experience. They both know how to get the job done. Who's going to get the job done? That's the question.
All right. Who do you like and why?
I like the Penguins, and I think this one goes the distance, really, when you look at it. I think it's going to be a bruising series. I think both of these teams have a distinct advantage. They have gone a week without playing a game. So sometimes that's an advantage, sometimes it's a disadvantage. Could be sloppy in the first game, maybe the first period and a half until they get their feet back underneath them. But they're going to be well rested, and I think that they're going to need that. Both these teams are going to need that because the Boston Bruins are going to try to bring physicality to the Penguins. The Penguins are going to try to finesse the Bruins as much as they can. I do like the Penguins, and I like it going the distance in 7 games.
Well, I'll agree on one plane with you. It will go 7 games, but I'm going to pick the Boston Bruins to defeat the Pittsburgh Penguins in overtime in Game 7, and it's going to be an outstanding series. The Eastern Conference Final, Pittsburgh and Boston. Bob, sit back and enjoy, because it's going to be quite a ride.
It's not just sit back. It's going to be fasten your seatbelt for this one.
All right. For Bob McElligott, I'm Jeff Rimer, and thanks for joining us on Jackets TV.